Right, so you're safe at the payphone, yes?
I think I am. I've got my baby with me.
Okay, right.
Sorry, you got a problem?
Is he with you now, caller? Yeah, thanks, Exchange. Caller, is he with you now?
Have you had an accident? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'll get police straight there, okay?
Yeah.
We left his dog here behind him.
Yeah.
He's back again. He's back again.
Yeah, don't worry, Mary. You wait at the phone box, yeah? Yeah, there's 3 cars on way to you, okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right, Mary, they'll be with you.
No.
Yeah, I'll let you go now, okay, Mary? Go and speak to the police.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
take that off my flap
Yeah,
out here.
Mary, go and tell the policeman there, okay? Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Scotland Yard, officially New Scotland Yard, is the headquarters of the Metropolitan Police, territorial police force responsible for policing Greater London's 32 boroughs. Its name derives from the location of the original Metropolitan Police headquarters at 4 Whitehall Place, which had its main public entrance on the Westminster street called Great Scotland Yard. The Scotland Yard entrance became the public entrance, and over time Scotland Yard came to be used not only as the common name for the headquarters buildings, but also as a metonym for the Metropolitan Police Service, MPS, itself and police officers, especially detectives who serve in it. The New York Times wrote in 1964 that just as Wall Street gave its name to New York's financial district, Scotland Yard became the name for the police activity in London. The force moved from Great Scotland Yard in 1890 to a newly completed building on the Victoria Embankment, and the name New Scotland Yard was adopted for the new headquarters. An adjacent building was completed in 1906. A third building was added in 1940. In 1967, the MPS consolidated its headquarters from a 3-building complex to a tall, newly constructed New Scotland Yard building on Broadway near Victoria on September 16, 1996. In 2013, it was announced that the force would move again to the Victoria Embankment at Westminster's Curtis Green building, which following tradition was renamed New Scotland Yard. This move to the latest New Scotland Yard was completed in 2016. The Metropolitan Police Service is responsible for law enforcement within Greater London, excluding the square mile of the City of London, which is covered by the City of London Police and the London Underground and Network Rail networks, which are the responsibility of the British Transport Police. The Metropolitan Police was formed by Robert Peel with the implementation of the Metropolitan Police Act passed by Parliament in 1829. Mr. Peel, with the help of Eugene Francis Bidoux, selected the original site on Whitehall Place for the new police headquarters. The first 2 commissioners, Charles Rowan and Richard Main, along with various police officers and staff, occupied the building. Previously a private house, 4 Whitehall Place, backed onto a street called Great Scotland Yard. This building was acquired by hypermarkets operator Lulu Group International in 2015 and redeveloped into a luxury hotel operated by Hyatt, which opened in December 2019. By 1887, the Metropolitan Police headquarters had expanded from 4 Whitehall Place into several neighbouring addresses, including 3, 5, 21 and 22 Whitehall Place, 8 and 9 Scotland Yard, and several stables. Eventually, the service outgrew its original site, and the new headquarters, designed by architect Richard Norman Shaw, were built on the Victoria Embankment overlooking the River Thames, south of what now is the Ministry of Defence's headquarters. In 1888, during the construction of the new building, workers discovered the dismembered torso of a female. The case, known as the Whitehall Mystery, was never solved. The Whitehall Mystery is an unsolved murder that took place in London in 1888. The dismembered remains of a woman were discovered at 3 sites in the centre of the city, including the construction site of Scotland Yard, the police headquarters. The incident belongs to the so-called Thames torso murders. On the 11th of September 1888, a right arm and shoulder were discovered on the muddy shore of the River Thames in Plimminco. The Times newspaper had initially suspected that the arm was placed in the water as a medical student's prank. On the 2nd of October 1888, during construction of the Metropolitan Police's new headquarters to be known as Scotland Yard on the Victoria Embankment near Whitehall in Westminster, a worker found a parcel containing human remains. The female torso was discovered in a 3-month-old vault that made up part of a cellar. It was placed there at some point after the 29th of September when Richard Lawrence, a workman, had last been inside the unlocked vault. The body had been wrapped in cloth, possibly a black petticoat, and tied with string. Torso was matched by police surgeon Thomas Bond to the previously found arm and shoulder. On the 17th of October 1888, reporter Jasper Waring used a Spitzbergen dog with the permission of the police and the help of a labourer to find a left leg cut above the knee that was buried near a construction site. The head and the remaining limbs were never found, and the identity of the victim was never established. Newspapers suggesting a connection between this murder and Jack the Ripper murders in and around Whitechapel district that were occurring simultaneously, but the Metropolitan Police ruled out any connection between the cases. An inquest was opened by Westminster's coroner, John Troutbeck, on the 8th of October. It determined that the woman had been of large stature and well nourished, and suggested that she had been approximately 24 years old, 5 feet 8 inches in height. The uterus had been removed from the body. The right arm had been severed by someone with knowledge of human anatomy, had been tourniqueted to stem blood flow, and due to the lack of muscle contraction, was removed post-mortem. It was also revealed that the victim had been wearing a brooch satin dress at the time of death. The dress had been manufactured in Bradford, England, from a pattern estimated as 3 years old. Pieces of newspaper found with the remains were from the Echo of the 24th of August and an issue of the Chronicle of unknown date. Although the cause of death was unknown, the victim had not suffocated or drowned. However, the coroner was unable to exclude hemorrhaging as a cause of death. Besides the uterus being absent, the left lung had severe pleurisy. Nothing was found to indicate that the victim had borne children. The heart was healthy and the right lung, liver, stomach, kidney and spleen were normal. She had been dead for around 6 weeks to 2 months and had fair skin and dark hair. Furthermore, the condition of the hand recovered suggested that the descendant was not an individual who was accustomed to manual labour. In time, the Metropolitan Police had grown from its initial 1,000 officers to around 13,000 and needed more administrative staff and a bigger headquarters. Further increases in the size and responsibilities of the force required even more administrators and space. Therefore, new buildings were constructed and completed in 1906 and 1940, so that New Scotland Yard became a 3-building complex. The first 2 buildings are now a Grade 1 listed structure known as Norman Shaw Buildings. The original building at 4 Whitehall Place still has a rear entrance on Great Scotland Yard. Stables for some of the mounted branch are still located at 7 Great Scotland Yard, across the street from the first headquarters. The headquarters of the Metropolitan Police were moved to 810 Broadway in 1967 in a new building constructed on that site that also bordered onto Victoria Street. In 2008, the Metropolitan Police Authority (MPA) bought the freehold of 10 Broadway for around £120 million. 10 Broadway was sold to the Abu Dhabi Financial Group in December 2014 for £370 million. And redevelopment plans for a 6th building mixed-use development were approved on February 2016. Ownership was officially passed from the MPA to the Abu Dhabi Financial Group when the relocation was completed on the 31st of October 2016. The building began demolition later that year. In May 2013, the Metropolitan Police confirmed that the new Scotland Yard building on Broadway would be sold and the force's headquarters would be moved back to the Curtis Green building on the Victoria Embankment. A competition was announced for architects to redesign the building prior to the Metropolitan Police moving into it in 2015. The building previously housed the Territorial Policing Headquarters and is adjacent to the original New Scotland Yard Norman Shaw North building. In December 2015, construction work of the exterior of Curtis Green building was completed. On the 31st of October 2016, the Metropolitan Police staff left the building at 10 Broadway and moved to their new headquarters. The new Scotland Yard building was to have been opened by Queen Elizabeth II on March 23rd, 2017, but that same day it was announced that the royal opening would be postponed due to the preceding day's terrorist attack at Westminster. The opening was rearranged for the 13th of July 2017. Like all three of its predecessors, it houses the Met's Crime Museum, formerly known as the Black Museum, founded in 1874, a collection of popular criminal memorabilia not open to the public. Scotland Yard has appeared in books, films, televisions since the Victorian era, when it featured in Jack the Ripper's cases and the stories of Sherlock Holmes. Wilkie Collins' novel The Moonstone, a tale of Scotland Yard detectives investigating the theft of a valuable diamond, has been described as perhaps the earliest clear example of the police procedural genre. In Robert Louis Stevenson's Gothic novella Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde in 1886, Inspector Newcomen, a Scotland Yard detective, explores Mr. Hyde's loft in Soho and discovers evidence of his depraved life. Alfred Hitchcock's 1929 thriller film Blackmail, widely considered the first British talkie, features a Scotland Yard detective, Frank Webber, played by John Longden, in Monty Python's 1969 comedy sketch The Funniest Joke in the World. Graham Chapman plays a Scotland Yard inspector who leaves the house with a joke in hand before dying from laughter.
Right, so you're safe at the payphone, yes?
I think I am. I've got my baby with me.
Okay, right.
Sorry, you got a problem?
Is he with you now, caller? Yeah, thanks, Exchange. Caller, is he with you now?
Have you had an accident? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I'll get police straight there, okay?
Yeah.
We left his dog here behind him.
Yeah.
He's back again. He's back again.
Yeah, don't worry, Mary. You wait at the phone box, yeah? Yeah, there's 3 cars on way to you, okay?
Yeah, okay.
All right, Mary, they'll be with you.
No.
Yeah, I'll let you go now, okay, Mary? Go and speak to the police.
Yeah, but
Yeah. Yeah, Mary, go and tell the policeman there, okay? Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
Last year, the Metropolitan Police in London dealt with nearly 1.5 million emergency calls, and everyone came through here, the information room at Scotland Yard. It's the world's largest computerized police control room. It's at the centre of a vast network of services primed for immediate 24-hour response on land, sea and air.
Sounds of glass being smashed, person's running away.
For the benefit of all Townlink users looking for white or male dark hair, dark glasses, we've done a snatch from M&S.
Within seconds, they can call on cars, foot patrols, boats and helicopters to go to incidents over 780 square miles in an average time of 12 minutes.
In the first couple of seconds from answering a call, you can tell if it's going to be grief. And you can also almost immediately tell what the call's going to be about. Because obviously if you can hear all the disturbance, you know it's going to be fight or domestic. Or if you've got a nice calm person, 9 times out of 10 now, burglaries. Scotland Yard. Yeah, you're going to have to calm down. Can I have the telephone number?
Hello.
Yep.
Hold on a minute, call them, please.
Operator, you're going to have to hang on a second.
Okay.
Hello, what's the problem? And where do you live?
Everybody that calls, you've got that initial, oof, I need a policeman, bosh, and you've got to try and say, well, why do you want a policeman? You've got to peel away the layer of frustration, anger, panic, and get to the nitty-gritty.
You're arguing with your mother-in-law?
No, it's not me. Like, it's my in-laws.
Yeah, your in-laws are arguing with... Yeah, is it your in-laws, your mother-in-law and your father-in-law are arguing between themselves?
No, I haven't got father.
Right, fine. So who's arguing with your in-laws? Is it you? Is it you?
Yes.
Right, so you've got an argument with your in-laws. What's the argument about and what's the problem?
Well, they've got knives involved.
Why have they pulled a knife on you? Why have they pulled a knife on you?
It does build from time to time. You know, I've got to state it. You know, it can be stressful, but certainly not as stressful as the officers out on the street dealing with incidents face to face. But when you get somebody phone up that tells you over the telephone that they've just murdered somebody, or when they phone up and they've been injured and they're actually dying while they're talking to you, that in itself can be quite stressful.
And how do you know this man's an escaped prisoner? So where's he escaped from, do you know?
Most calls go out from the yard to the Met's 66 local divisions, the backbone of the police emergency response service. Policing a city the size of London is no easy task, and they have to tackle everything from domestic violence and road accidents to burglary, robbery and assault. The yard is connected to smaller control rooms in each of these divisions, such as this one at Ilford.
Thanks. Hello? How much petrol did they steal? £10. 113 receiving.
They communicate by computer, and the yard or the local division can send units to the scene.
Yeah, E for Echo. W Whiskey, E Bravo, U Uniform.
Let's go ahead. Call in Juliet 3, go ahead.
It's 4:36 on a Friday afternoon. A call has come from the yard that an 8-year-old girl is missing. Police constables Ray Davis and Ashley Cooper have been assigned to look for her.
Unfortunately, we've had a few attempted abductions over the last week from schools. So, any approach or any children that are lost or missing, we treat as attempted abductions. Yeah, Juliet 3 on scene at Loxton Park, over.
That's all right, don't worry, darling. What did she look like? Where did you last see her? Just sit against the car for me. Where did you last see her? Now, calm down. It's important you stay calm so we find out where she is, yeah?
I heard a friend tell me that the park was round the corner from Grange Road. I allowed her to go.
Where's her friend now?
There's a friend there.
Hiya.
Hello.
What's your name?
So what does she look like?
Do you want to come over here, Nick, and tell me what's happened? Do you know where she is?
No.
No?
When I was in the park, yeah, she got the ump, yeah, and she just ran off.
Can you tell us what she was wearing?
She was wearing a black naff coat and black leggings.
She's about her height, is she?
Right, OK, so she's got a black naff coat, black leggings. Do you remember what shoes she's wearing?
Did you found her way back to Grange Road, do you think? She'll be having a great time out on her own.
Juliet India from 289. It seems the lost girl has made her way towards, I think it's Staines Road entrance to the park. I'm on my way with the little girl now to see if we can see her, over. So where did you lose sight of her? Can you remember?
So how long ago did she leave you to go to the park then?
About 3:30.
Well, you haven't seen a little 8-year-old girl with a black jacket, black leggings, last... Right, OK.
That's that lady, she's having a look for us as well.
How tall is she compared to you?
She's just about here.
Right.
You've not seen a young girl about 8 wandering around looking lost or upset or anything the last half hour or so? OK, well, thanks very much. Yes, of course you are. She's going to be about somewhere.
What?
Yes, received. They found her, Richmond Road.
They found her?
Yeah. There you go, told you.
Thanks a lot.
That's all right. Well, we've got to make sure it's her first. You don't want to take a strange one home.
In the end, fears of abduction are groundless. It turns out that the girl has left the park and got lost in a road just beyond one of the entrances.
Hello, police, Scotland Yard.
Just one moment, sir. Hello, sir. Let me speak to the exchange, please.
I understand. So which number? I understand.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, sir. Do you understand me? Be quiet, please.
Okay, what's the problem? How old are you?
16.
And what's the problem between you and your parents? No, listen to me. What's the problem between you and your parents? Oh dear. Okay. Yeah, all right. Hey, let's all stop shouting at each other. Yeah. Yeah, listen to me. Let's stop shouting. Yeah, shouting at me is not going to get you anywhere, is it? Let's stop shouting. Talk to me sensibly.
Just, hello, sir. Hello, sir. Hello, exchange. Who was the subscriber?
How many people are fighting?
10.
10?
Yeah.
The yard can call up a response by computer or by radio. The computer-aided dispatch system, or CAD, tells the communicators where the call is coming from and the name of the nearest station. They log the details, and at a stroke, the whole message can be sent to any operational division in the Met area. In a real emergency, the message also goes to one of the yard's radio dispatchers, who can send officers to the scene right away.
Romeo Golf, receiving MP over. Yeah, could you assist Romeo 6?
Each division has at least one area car with a radio link to the yard. Tonight, the Ilford car, Juliet 3, is crewed by PC's Pat Codrington and Dave Mann. They don't know it yet, but they're about to assist one of the Met's 3 helicopters equipped with a thermal image camera capable of clear night vision. The helicopter observer has become suspicious of one car, apparently trying to avoid the police, who stopped another. He contacts the yard radio call sign MP to ask for assistance. The helicopter's call sign is India 99.
India 99, do you have any more of either vehicle, MP ever?
No, all I've got is a white hatchback. As I say, I'm not sure if he was trying to avoid police that stopped the original Astra, but he reversed up, did a left, and I'd just like someone to have a look at him.
The observer's instincts tell him something is wrong, but the driver could be anyone from a joyrider to an IRA terrorist. To find out, he needs help on the ground.
Is any unit then to assist Hollybush Hill towards Snaresbrook Road, MP ever?
Juliet 3, MP.
Juliet 3, received.
The Ilford car joins the chase.
Snaresbrook Road. So we're going to make our way towards and try and intercept him.
He's now in the viaduct to South Woodford. Not over.
Yeah, Juliet 3, MP. We're coming down towards Eastern Avenue to Rebbage roundabout.
Juliet 3 received.
He's now coming down the Chigwell Road, MP.
Chigwell Road, received.
It's left into Chigwell Road.
Yes, received. The vehicle is now left into
Chigwell Road, that's the last location.
Left into Chigwell, so try the branch, turn right.
Yeah.
MP, you've got a left, stand by.
Right, the Eric car, take a left. Right, he's in the road parallel to you on your right. The next road down parallel to your right, he's stopped halfway down the road.
Yeah, turn right, the vehicle's parking up, so take the next right.
There is one with headlights on, up to your right.
The first police car on the scene is Kilo 1 from Romford, but Juliet 3 is close behind.
He's the driver of the car, yeah? You've been drinking? No. Breathe on me. You have been, haven't you?
I don't know.
When you first see the area cars blatting about and policemen getting out fairly excited at the end of it, it's because they can't control the adrenaline.
Right. I'll give you another opportunity to blow this properly. If you don't blow it properly, I'll arrest you for failing to take a breath test. Do you understand?
Depending on the incident you're dealing with, I mean, they don't expect a policeman to get out sort of with adrenaline going, quick fire conversation, bit loud. You've got to get out like you've just pulled round the corner and get out and weigh up the situation and deal with it as you see fit.
It goes to red and orange, and then finally red, and you fail the test, right?
The driver gave a positive breath test at the scene and was arrested and taken to Ilford Police Station. There he gave another positive test on more sophisticated equipment and was subsequently disqualified for a year and fined for drink driving.
Yeah. Right, well, all we can do, like... Well, you're saying that you're going to smash the alarm up if it doesn't stop?
I'll shoot it.
You're saying that you've got a weapon and a firearm and you're going to shoot the alarm if it doesn't stop?
No, I haven't got a weapon.
The calmest ones are the most dangerous because you don't know what you've got. You know, if they come on, hello, police, nice and calm and gentle. I've had an armed robbery where it's, hello, police. Oh, this is such and such, a betting office. Oh, yes, an armed robbery. Excuse me. And then you pick yourself up because you can get lulled into a nice little set. Oh, this is a nice, gentle little call. I can go through it nice and gently. And then halfway through, they'll say, oh, yes, so he had a gun.
What type of gun was it? Well, was it Well, yeah, was it a handgun or was it a rifle?
The duty inspector at the yard can call on up to 14 armed response vehicles equipped to deal with firearms emergencies.
With deploying armed response vehicles, it's really a question of the type of incident that they go to. They're a limited resource. They've got to be used wisely. We don't want them going here, there and everywhere. An example of the type of incident that we would send them to occurred last night, where there'd been an argument between two people. Somebody ended up getting injured, not with a gunshot, but ended up getting injured. Then a man was seen on a balcony of a block of flats with a handgun. Clearly something that we need to send an armed response vehicle to.
The ARVs are manned by officers of SO19, the specialised firearms unit, who are the first line of response to any armed incident. Here they've been called to South London because a man has allegedly been holding his wife and daughter hostage and threatening to shoot himself. After 2 hours, negotiators persuade him to let them go and give himself up.
They found one shotgun, right, and they reckon the other one is, according to the wife anyway, she says there's another one in the upstairs room.
The man was arrested and taken in for questioning.
The officers that searched actually found the shotgun. I believe they found that in here, and the ammunition was contained in this bag upstairs.
The spread of firearms has brought an increase in the number of ARVs on patrol. It remains to be seen whether this will be enough to counter the growing threat to officers dealing with emergencies. As a capital city, London is a focus for terrorism. The Yard is constantly refining its techniques for organising the police response to terrorist attacks.
When you've got incidents such as bomb threats, where seconds count, you may only have perhaps 2 minutes to get a message to the local police station, to get units to go to the scene, to start clearing the public away, to make the area safe. Then every second counts.
A suspect briefcase has been discovered in Selfridge's department store on Oxford Street, and the call has gone out to the explosives officers of the anti-terrorist branch.
A black briefcase in leather with gold combination locks. It is locked and it is heavy.
Would you please leave the junction immediately?
No, back the other way, sir. Back the other way. Don't argue, please. Just go.
The explosives officer uses a portable X-ray machine to photograph the contents of the case. He finds nothing to indicate a bomb, and this time there's no threat to the public. But there's an ever-present risk. In recent years, 2 explosives officers have been killed defusing bombs.
Keep a name and address on it, just underneath there. If it turns out to be stolen, then we'll have it back from you.
Embassies are prime terrorist targets. London plays host to no less than 140 diplomatic missions, and unlike many cities, they're not concentrated in one area. The Met's Diplomatic Protection Group is responsible for their security.
Super. Good. See you later on.
Every DPG officer is armed, and the police guarantee that their distinctive red vehicles will reach any embassy within 2 minutes of an emergency call, the quickest response time in the Met. Their baptism of fire was here at the Iranian embassy on April the 30th, 1980, when 6 Iranians burst in and took 35 hostages. It was the beginning of a 6-day siege. One of the hostages was DPG Constable Trevor Locke, who played a key role in negotiations. His captors had no idea he was wearing a revolver under his jacket. While they guarded their prisoners with guns and grenades, he agonized about what to do.
I reckoned in my own mind that I was going to possibly be able to take 2 out if I was going to have a go, my standard of shooting. And even if I managed to shoot one, the way they were holding their hand grenade, they'd fall down and the ring of the hand grenade would come out and it'd cause untold damage. This was what was dominating my attitude towards it. Shall I use the gun or not? These hand grenades, these these green lemons, as I used to call them.
On May the 5th, the terrorists killed a hostage, despite getting the publicity they wanted for the plight of their homeland in Iran. Downing Street decided to storm the embassy. The control of the operation was handed from the police to the SAS. Soldiers moved into position, and a negotiator kept the terrorist leader on the phone to divert his attention. When the attack began, PC Locke jumped him and wrestled him to the floor.
So I drew the gun from my holster, a similar gun to this, a Smith & Wesson Model 10, and I put it into his forehead, like so. And he just didn't believe it. Mr. Trevor's got a gun. This is the thing I'd been laying on for the last 6 days, and I carried on throwing all these curses into him, and he was saying, please don't hurt me, Mr. Trevor. It wasn't me, it was the others. I told them what you said was true, but they wouldn't listen. They wanted to carry on. Please don't hurt me. And I thought, I'm going to kill this man. But then I realised that if I kill him, I'd be killing him for revenge and nothing else, because I had him and he wasn't going anywhere.
Moments later, an SAS trooper burst in and shouted at PC Locke to move away.
Then I heard some fire, gunfire, and I looked back and there was On. And he was obviously very dead. He had a line of bullet holes in him, and he was absolutely lifeless. I just couldn't believe only seconds earlier I'd been wrestling with this guy, and he was very much alive.
The terrorists killed one more hostage before they were overwhelmed. 5 were shot dead. The sole survivor is now serving a life sentence for manslaughter. Trevor Locke was awarded the George Medal and has since retired.
I would have rather not have been involved in that adventure, but the one thing I am pleased about is that I didn't use the gun. I didn't have it on my conscience that I killed somebody.
Unfortunately, terrorism is here. I think it will not get better in the short term. Anyway, I think the way that wars are fought now will probably be in state-run terrorism to a certain extent, rather than these enormous, great standing armies that fight it out and slug it out to the death. I think that's the way it's going to go, and therefore it will always be with us. And a capital city like London with 140 missions, what happens at one end of the world will affect us here, or could affect us here. So we've got to be ready all the time.
Tonight there's a more common problem, a brawl at a pub in Richmond. It's too big for local officers to cope with, so the Yard sends in the Commissioner's Reserve. The Commissioner's Reserve is a mobile group of about 50 officers under the direct control of the Yard's duty officer. They can be sent to any major disturbance within 15 minutes.
Tonight has been the sweetest, most trouble-free night.
Good.
And suddenly, for some reason or other, we have made it.
It's all been sorted now.
No, but it's been sorted in the most incredible way.
The reserve is drawn from the Territorial Support Group, the TSG. They have special skills on top of their basic training, especially in public order policing. On this occasion, 8 people were arrested. 7 were later convicted on charges including drunken disorderly, threatening behaviour and actual bodily harm.
Try me. Try me. Did I tell you that I'll take food down?
Why should I try?
Try me. Try me.
Just be a silly boy.
Try me. Try me. Try me. Try me. Try me. Try me.
Right. Yeah, okay, just a minute. 13 what street? Yeah, just one moment. Now, can you calm down a little bit and tell me the name of the street you live in?
We work on the principle, if it comes in, it goes out. And that's the art of our communication. The messages come into us and we put them out. And we don't really have a lot of time to go back saying, well, what happened to that message? What was the final result? Did that man go for trial that was arrested with the gun? We haven't got time because the calls are coming in all the time.
Hello, it's the police Scotland Yard. May I help you?
Yeah, listen, I'm not being rude, but I'm trying to contact, it sounds like Kingston Police.
Well, you've rung 999. That gets you through to the emergency service, sir. What's your problem?
I'm trying to find something ill. I'm trying to get hold of Richmond, Kingston Police.
Yeah, you can't do that on the 999 system, sir, so can I help you?
Well, yes, because my boy's involved in a bit of a problem. Oh, I don't know how to explain this, but...
Well, you'll have to tell me what you want, otherwise I can't help you, you see. You see, this is the emergency room. It's not a switching centre. Right.
So pathetic, isn't it, this system?
No, it's not pathetic at all. I'm sorry if you don't understand it, but if you want the local police station, you just have to dial their telephone number and ring them. 999 is for emergencies, and that's what I am. I'm the emergency one.
We're trying to fucking contact
Yeah, you don't have to actually swear, and if you want a telephone number, what you have to do is look in the telephone directory or ring Director of Inquiries.
But
do you? Do you? Yes, they do. Do you have a? Do you actually have an emergency?
No.
Well, if you don't have an emergency, then I can't help you, can I?
Oh, well, all right, mate. I'll speak to someone else.
Bye-bye.
Thames for nearly 200 years. They help to rescue those in danger.
Yeah, well, there's nothing down the bottom of the outboard to lift it up.
They patrol around the clock. They police the boat race and other ceremonies.
Harrods Depository, Cambridge, Wellington.
They search the rivers, canals and lakes of London and beyond for contraband and weapons. They gather intelligence and help customs drug busters. They are Thames Division, the oldest police unit in the world. The division's headquarters are at Wapping in the East End of London. They have 134 officers. Most of them are assigned to boat patrols up and down the river. PC Douglas Mills came here from Addington Division and has served with them for 10 years.
I'd been boating since I was a young lad. I actually started off on the docks when I was about 9, 10 years of age. I was very fortunate in that I'd worked with Thames Division officers prior to joining the division. I'd been out and seen what they do on the river. I had a good experience of some of the work they were involved in, from towing vessels that had run aground, rescuing people, these sort of things.
Police radio, Jimmy H for London Bridge out. London Bridge out.
You could have a normal day where you could literally pop up and down the river, popping in here, popping out there, popping alongside, and then you'll find all of a sudden a call comes over the radio and you're off. Blue lights are going, two tones, the adrenaline's up, the speed, bouncing around.
The crew is answering an emergency call to Greenwich, where someone has been reported in the water towing a dinghy that's broken down.
Not safe enough now, but we won't be able to get in that close because the tide's dropping now. We'll just hang off and see if we can talk to them from a distance, find out if they've been in the water, see if they might need hospital aid, perhaps if they've been in and got cold.
We had a report that one of you was in the water swimming.
Sounds like things 3.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, otherwise, are you?
I don't know if you could get a land unit just down to make sure that they're okay, please. For me, seems to be no problems with it at the moment, but they might have problems getting it back on the slipway.
Yeah, I'll try and do it. We've got people running about all over the place at the moment. We've got canoeists falling out all over. I'll do my best.
Yes, in that case, do you need assistance further upriver, I think?
I'm not really sure. It's a bit confused up there. These canoeists are up in the Battersea Park area. They're all falling out of the canoes all over the place. We're trying to get shoreside units to get to them. It's quite confused, apparently.
Oh, we'll make our way upriver then and see what we can do. Thames Street. One of our crews is permanently tied up with a security operation, so they can't really leave their station, so we'll have to go and see what help we can give. It's not so much a problem if you're safe in midstream, it's when you come alongside these barge trots here with moored craft alongside. If you're unfortunate enough to be in line with one of those, then there's no real escape. The tide just either pins you on the front of the barge or you get swept underneath.
Every Easter, there's a canoe race from Devizes to Westminster. Last year, these canoes were among many that capsized in unexpected bad weather.
When you finally get to where you want to go to, then your pressure's really on them because you're obviously there for a situation, be it to rescue somebody or whatever. So then all of a sudden you become no longer a fast boat driver, you become a manoeuvrer, a navigator, as it were.
In April, the water temperature can be as low as 4 degrees centigrade, enough to make even strong swimmers helpless after 2 minutes.
We are free-handed, and it is 3 of us that have to deal with that situation. There is no one going to be able to come to us and assist us in any way. Nobody can actually walk across water yet. I don't believe the course has been given.
Finished? Yeah, well done. We've got past the post. That's the important part. How was your float, boy?
With 10 years down here, I can honestly say now that I'm probably scratching the surface.
Not every story on the Thames ends so happily. The river's tides and currents can be fierce and have claimed many victims. Each year, Thames Division recover around 50 bodies. Identifying them used to be one of the most unpleasant duties their officers had to face.
A body, when it comes out the river, can be as much as 2.5 to 3 times inflated of its normal size. The water makes the body blow up, as it were, with gases, and it can be very hideous. Where we used to work when I first come down here, there was financial rewards, as it were, involved in collecting a body, i.e. that for cleaning body covers, for fingerprinting a dead body, searching, strip searching, etc. There was a reward insofar as you were given a gratis payment by the coroner of, I think, £15, tax-free. But this was split between 3 of you in the boat, or divided. But a lot of people were quite happy to steer away from bodies and walk away. They weren't interested. But there were some people that enjoyed, if that's the right word to use, the actual recovery, because they would go on to do the investigation side, which is very interesting.
This is dead body number 17 of last year, sighted near the Woolwich Ferry and recovered by one of the Wapping crews.
The Woolwich Ferry workshops, they'd seen the body floating in the water right outside the workshops inside the ferry pier. It looks as if it's been in the water a while, it's a discoloration and some marks on the skin. Well, you get curious, especially if it's not immediately obvious who the person is and what happened.
Finding out what happened is a job that now belongs to the Divisional Identification Officer, PC Peter Clements.
What is she? Is it a she? I think it's a she. I see 3 she.
Decomposition often changes the colour of the skin, but at this stage the body is thought to be that of a black female. If it turns out to be a routine case, identification should take no more than a week. PC Clements' first task is to look for anything suspicious.
Clothed, a round neck t-shirt, black bra, blue jeans, black tights and black knickers. I'm looking for several things. In the first instance, any signs of stab wounds or serious wounds or marks to the body which may suggest she's been murdered or put in the river against her will. At the moment, there doesn't appear to be anything at all. Right, left-hand pocket, front, 1 mortise, 2 Yale tuck keys, and a plastic fob that says, "I need a hug." That's it. Measuring stick.
6'3".
6'3" inches tall. She's a big girl.
Yep.
Now, can one of the pathologists either come here or meet me at the mortuary at, say, 4:30? No, it's not. It's just to pronounce life extinct on a body recovered from the river. Right, she was recovered earlier on today down by Woolwich. I've got all the clothes off her, as you can see. I've found no obvious scars or stab wounds or marks or anything like that. The 2 £10 notes, a bit of change and a small bunch of keys in the property. Apart from that, there's not a lot else.
Yeah. She's got a penis.
She is a he.
It's a he. He's had a sex change. He's in the process of having a sex change. And that was a pseudo-hermaphrodite. Fascinating.
That is unbelievable.
Isn't it male as a
Tell you what, she shouldn't be too difficult to identify, no? As long as her friends know what he is or she is.
Well.
What would you describe her as?
Hermaphrodite.
The post-mortem confirmed that the deceased had in fact been born with male and female features and was not transsexual.
You're a star.
That's not bad for a layman, is it?
This is brilliant.
PC Clement circulated details at once. Some weeks later, Hornsey police identified the body after receiving a letter from abroad about a man living under a woman's name reported missing in their area. The inquest brought in a verdict of suicide by drowning. Thames Division started because of London's importance at one time as one of the world's busiest commercial ports. This made it a magnet for crime. In 1798, the West India Company founded a marine police at Wapping to protect their cargoes from pirates and thieves. They were incorporated into the Metropolitan Police as Thames Division in 1839. Nowadays, commercial shipping has all but disappeared, and criminals have switched from piracy to crimes such as drug smuggling.
Being rummaged by customs tomorrow afternoon. We've heard from customs and excise this morning that there's a ship due in tonight, which has come from Trinidad, previously Colombia, and they're interested in having a close look at it. High water tomorrow is at 1 p.m, and that's the best diving window that we've got at the moment.
The division is working more and more with other agencies to combat crime on the river. It's recently formed a marine intelligence team which liaises with customs to track ships from countries known for their drugs trade. Customs has no divers of its own, so they call on Thames Division's underwater search unit. The USU has 11 divers, and under safety regulations they have to field at least 5 for each operation. They help to combat the smugglers' latest tactic, bolting containers filled with drugs below the waterline for collection on arrival.
Ships in the past, they've been spotted with like big torpedoes bolted onto the bilge keel. And I think the customs have a hunch and they just ask, can we come along and check the ships out for them? What we basically do is search along the bilge keel, which is either side of the ship, the rudder and the rudder housing, for anything that might be there, especially drugs.
While customs officials search the engine room, the marine intelligence officers go topside to have everything switched off while the divers are working.
Where's the guy you talked about the...
Where's the chief engineer? He's switching everything off at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, where is he?
He's in his office.
Inlet and outlet, discharge valves. Have you got just a generator?
Yes, I know.
Is that all? Just one generator?
Yeah, one generator.
For the...
the switch, the electric.
Which side's that on, port or starboard?
It is on the left board. Left board.
Port?
Yeah, port side.
And will that be running all the time?
Yes.
Okay. And you can't shut that? Can you shut? No? We will keep clear, yeah?
Yeah.
Top.
Has the boat definitely got a bilge keel?
What's right there?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, he's found it. He's just found it.
Service to diver, I take it the bilge rail is clear of any objects, remember?
After a difficult and dangerous search, the ship is given the all clear. But even though the ship is not involved in drug smuggling, the hope is that such operations will deter drug barons from targeting the UK.
Each ship is different. And if you could take it out of the water and look at it, it'd be easy. But you've got the guy working in nil visibility, can't see a thing. And where we thought the bilge keel was originally, it was further back. So, but we got there eventually, and it's all been searched, and it's all clear.
That's a good old knot you got there, isn't it? Old Daniels couldn't have done that.
On Easter Saturday, the underwater search unit are called out to assist the CID at a brook in Dollis Hill.
Tell what it's about, lads. A week ago yesterday, the dismembered remains of a woman were found at the council waste transfer station. Cut a long story short, we searched the dump and we got back all of her body, bar the head. Now, a man walking his dog today, about lunchtime, sees the head in the water. We've come down here, we've recovered it, but what we'd like you to do is to search a bit downstream of where the head was found and then up to this weir. Yeah. And what we're looking for in particular, we're looking for perhaps the bag that we think the head was in, and also a saw, knife, possibly a power saw, and that might even include angle grinding discs.
Yeah, right.
Okay?
So, Thanks a lot. It's a voluntary call out. Like today, we're all a day off. We had the call at lunchtime. That's how we've mustered ourselves together, got people to look after our children, got into Wapping through the traffic, got out here, and luckily it's daylight. Usually it's during the night. So we've managed to scrape 5 of us together to form a team today. It's quite a shallow river, maximum about 2 foot, I suppose. So we're working a line across, doing a fingertip search at the bottom. The best gropers in town, basically. This is bread and butter sort of work to us, really. You get spates of murders. We might go a month without a job like this, but then you might get 2 or 3 in a month. But there's always something to do, you know. It's not always shallow water like that. You might be in the docks or the river, canals, anyway.
The unit's efforts are rewarded when they find a bag weighted with bricks. It was found to have the same batch number as other bags in the house of the victim, Mrs. Indu Bagdan Cheney. Her servant, Esaki Gopal, was arrested for her murder. At his trial, the bag was said to have contained her head. In an extraordinary verdict, the Crown accepted his plea of guilty to manslaughter because of the sexual and physical humiliation he'd suffered at her hands. He was sentenced to 4 years. The divers are often called in to search London's many canals. Here at Regent's Canal in Hackney, a boy has reported his friend has fallen in, frightened by a dog coming along the towpath. She's a 19-year-old American on a visit from the States. The USU now has the task of recovering her body.
Someone's come along and look like a Staffordshire. She's fallen in, floated out about 6 to 8 feet. So he's run off to get some help. Another member of the public's seen her, but by then, a minute later, she's floating face down and not moving at all. He's run away for a few seconds, trying to get some help. By the time he's returned, no sign of the body.
In the murky waters, the search takes nearly 3 hours.
The worst part is the search. The actual finding of the body is no hardship at all because it's a feeling of relief once you have found it. It's a search and anticipation of finding it is the worst part of it. 95% of the time, all our searches is done in nil visibility and it's done with touch. Any visibility is a bonus.
Just before 10 o'clock, the woman's friends are called to identify her body.
Certainly in the evening time, I find the river almost intimate. The actual night time when it's lit up is, to me, very beautiful. The other aspects, of course, follow that. In fact, it's the most dangerous time because you're then navigating in dark areas where the ambient light certainly around you can cause all sorts of havoc and play tricks with you.
Woolies Radio, Sarita.
It was on a night like this that the Thames witnessed its worst disaster this century. On every summer weekend in the 80s, anything up to 10 disco boats used to sail from piers near Westminster. Once afloat, they're free to serve alcohol outside normal licensing hours. In their heyday, they would sometimes sail until dawn. But all that was to change in 1989 with the sinking of the pleasure boat Marchioness. Among the vessels then on the river was the dredger Boroughs. Just what happened is disputed, but some reports say that around 2 a.m. on Sunday, August the 20th, the Boroughs passed under the centre arch of Cannon Street Railway Bridge on its way out of London. Somewhere here, or further downstream, it collided with the Marchioness. The passenger boat rolled over and sank immediately. Another vessel sounded a distress signal, and Thames Division crews at Waterloo and Wapping scrambled to their boats.
As we went under Blackfriars Bridge, you could hear screaming.
slowed down, and there was just heads bobbing up all around the river, floating towards Blackfriars Bridge. And there was people in the water screaming for help, and with two in the boat, you kind of, we told Scotland Yard that we had a serious emergency, and then it was a matter of going towards people, turning the engine off, running out of the boat, pulling them on board, hitting the bridge buttress, starting the engine, going to the next group of people floating towards you, stopping the engine, running out. We slowly, the two of us, filled the boat.
The thing that distressed me more than anything was the fact that I also went past a lot of people that were face down in the river. It was unfair that I should have to make a decision. I mean, I would like to have grabbed that person or those persons and yanked them into the boat and worked on them with the resuscitating equipment and everything. They deserved a chance the same as anybody else did. But unfortunately, I had to make a decision. I went for the people that I saw struggling in the water and that were still mobile to some degree, and I gave them preference.
Just before we hit Blackfriars Bridge, there was a loud bump at the beginning of the boat, the front of the boat, and I thought it was a bit of driftwood. And it was driftwood, because it couldn't have been anything else. But when I saw all the heads in the water, I thought it was somebody, and I'd cut them in half or kill them. And for 6 months I was absolutely in shock, worrying that I'd kill somebody. And everybody that came out of that river I went and had a look at, and not one of them were injured in that way. And that was a big relief, but it took a long, long time to get over that shock.
How did you get over it?
By keeping quiet. This is the first time I've talked about it, other than to 2 other police officers.
Of the 131 passengers and crew, 51 drowned. Of the survivors, 30 were saved by their own efforts or the pleasure boat hurling them, and 50 by the officers of Thames Division.
At one stage, one of my duty boats, one of the smaller boats, had 19 people on board. It was on the point of capsize, and they were still rescuing people. I mean, the officers actually risked their own lives in undertaking this. I mean, they were being swept up against bridge buttresses to try and take people on board. The work was highly dangerous that particular morning.
But there was harsh criticism of the rescue effort. An inquiry concluded the emergency services had been poorly equipped for the job, and later inquests heard claims that the boats had been delayed by being sent in the wrong direction.
All I would say is this, that the work undertaken on that particular morning, which is a very regrettable morning, with quite a heavy loss of life, I don't think, to be quite frank, any more people could have been rescued than were rescued by this division. I think the work undertaken by my officers was absolutely magnificent. If an agency such as the RNLI, the lifeboat, actually had performed that type of rescue and rescued so many people in such a short time, then certainly gold medals would have been awarded.
So far, the only honour awarded has been 2 plaques, one at Waterloo Pier and the other at Wapping. Both were paid for by the officers' own association.
I certainly found that my domestic life suffered immensely at home, my family and children. I became a very irritable person, short-fused, bad-tempered, many things. I even started physically to go deaf and was in fact hospitalised at a later date. And although treatment was carried out, the conclusions were that it was a mystery as to what had caused the actual deafness. There was no medical problem as such, but to that point, as I say, I must admit I fell apart.
The jury at the last inquest told the press they would like to commend Thames Division for the speed and professionalism with which they reacted to the disaster. Yet at present, by a strange quirk of the statute book, neither the police nor anyone else bears a legal responsibility for rescue on the river.
From November 5, Zulu 1 is at the baggage reclaim.
Scotland Yard and Customs and Excise officers acting on a tip-off that a courier carrying heroin is due to arrive from Delhi.
From November 5, Zulu 1 is wearing a suede.
Called smuggler ants. They just bring in a few kilos here, a few kilos there. In some places, only a few ounces. Difficult bit of the trade to get into because it's constantly changing.
Having cleared customs and immigration, the suspect was arrested. The huge international trade in drugs has become the biggest problem for those fighting organised crime.
Police response will never cope with the trade in drugs. The best we can do is slow the rate of increase. A good day for the police is a day the problem doesn't get any worse.
Another one down the back.
2 kilos of heroin was strapped to the body of Vilom Prashar. He was later sentenced to 8 years in prison.
I've got the surveillance team jacked up for tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock. They'll be coming up to the yard to be briefed.
The drugs trade brings many problems. Scotland Yard has a special unit devoted to drugs-related violence.
There is no doubt that the greater the profits, the greater will be the motivation to defend your profits and indeed to go on and to increase them. So if the stakes are very high, and they are very high, then the propensity to violence will increase at a commensurate rate, and that sadly is the current picture.
A dealer selling crack cocaine to a female undercover police officer. The drugs are collected for evidence by a detective who's been hiding in an adjoining room. This was Operation Motion, run by Scotland Yard to counter the growth of violence related to drugs dealing.
The unit was set up in the early 90s to deal with the explosion in crack cocaine. It's expanding, becoming much more violent. There is massive amounts of money to be made in that particular commodity. So a lot of our work is actually aimed at crack dealers.
The police turned a flat in a respectable building into what appeared to be a brothel.
We manned that with a couple of undercover women who were police officers, with a minder who was a police officer, and we basically just phoned up these yardie crack dealers and invited them to come down, and if they had drugs and were selling drugs, to sell them to us in this brothel. This chap's called Sooty, that's his street name. This is his first occasion down, and the girls are making him welcome. You'll find that he conceals his drugs down his underpants. In fact, maybe further up his underpants than that. We never quite found out. She's had a problem with this guy. He's been late. She's chastising him in a friendly way to remind him that the next time he comes, he'd better be on time. Because if this had been a real-life brothel scenario, instead of a police sting, then quite obviously the brothel person wouldn't have been very happy with having to wait hours for any drugs they wanted. Obviously undercover techniques are established now and they're being used widely. And I personally use that technique with girls and positively aim at using their sexuality where I can. But obviously within strictly controlled guidelines and within advice we get from our legal people. This chap, Mr. Young, was also late, and he was very anxious. On his way down to this plot, there were a lot of uniformed police officers around. Had absolutely nothing to do with us whatsoever. It's generally been a very stressful day for him. Unfortunately, it gets a lot more stressful. And as he leaves, unfortunately for him, he's about to get hit by an arrest team.
We're back on the scene now.
I was very, very concerned right from the very beginning for the girl's safety, and that was why we put a police officer in to look like a pimp in case something had gone wrong, in case the drug dealers got violent, in fact, in case the drug dealers became over-friendly, shall we say, because they thought they were talking to professional prostitutes. At the end of the day, we arrested 36 of these dealers, and they were all convicted, with the courts able to see exactly what we were doing in the brothel, everything recorded on video.
My job is to push the boundaries as far as I can without putting the officers here at risk, and that if we step over the bounds of what is lawful, then that is my responsibility, and the responsibility stops here.
The methods employed by Commander Grieve's Criminal Intelligence Branch to achieve their considerable success include informants, undercover officers, surveillance, and technical devices they won't even discuss. They could be a worry if they were not strictly controlled.
Yes, this is morally difficult territory. This is at the edge of what is possible, but we look at the law and we try to do all that we can lawfully to bring these criminals to justice. And the Court of Appeal have provided us with some very precise and powerful guidelines which we follow in our use of informers, in our use of technology, in our use of gathering evidence, and in the relationship between intelligence and evidence.
The drugs dealers on the streets of London are only bit-part players in international and organised crime, which has become a worldwide business.
In many ways, criminals have taken advantage of free movement at a pace which is ahead of the reaction, certainly of conventional law enforcement, certainly of the legal processes. So London is inextricably an international city, an international crossroads, and we are vulnerable in the same way as any other major international centre to the increasing activities of international organised crime.
In the drugs trade alone, London is a focus for criminal organisations from all over the world. They import ecstasy-type drugs from the Netherlands, amphetamines from the Netherlands, France and Belgium, heroin from the Golden Crescent via Turkey and the Balkan route, cannabis resin from Pakistan and Morocco, herbal cannabis from Jamaica and Western and Southern Africa, and cocaine from Venezuela and Colombia. But perhaps London's biggest involvement in organised crime is in money laundering. Criminals from all over the world invest in the city to give themselves legitimate income from their illegal money. The figure has been put as high as £4 billion.
If a substantial part of your legitimate economy, the economy above the ground, is in fact being undermined by money which is criminal in origin, dishonest money, then that has a potentially corrupting effect on your entire economic structure.
Money laundering attracts most international criminal organisations to London. The Italian mafia has a presence in the capital, although little is heard of its activities. The best-known case in recent years was when disgraced banker Roberto Calvi was found hanging from Blackfriars Bridge in 1982. He was believed to have been murdered by the mafia's heroin traffic manager in London, Francesco Di Carlo, although he was never charged. However, Di Carlo was sentenced by a British court to 25 years in prison for drug offences.
Di Carlo only owns Wine Bar in Streatham, South London, but his real money came from organising the mafia's secret drugs line spreading halfway around the world. It wasn't, though, until a shipment of furniture arrived at Felixstowe from India in December 1984 that intelligence became evidence. Agents in Britain and Canada seized £93 million worth of heroin and cannabis. The mafia ring has now been broken up in Britain, but the organisation's believed to be already regrouping.
The Italian mafia is here and has been here for several years. We were always the place of rest and recuperation, to use the Italian cliché. This was a place where you could take to the mattresses. The knock-on effect we're seeing now is of Italian mafia figures who are not only here for rest and recuperation or to evade attention elsewhere, but are developing their activities. Drugs and money laundering would be an example of that.
However, it's criminals from Eastern Europe, the so-called Russian mafia, that may become the biggest threat to Great Britain from organised crime. The murder in London in March 1993 of two Chechen brothers was one of the first signs of the lawlessness which is running out of control in the old Soviet Union, spreading to this country.
Police were first alerted to the double killing when they were called to this house in Harrow, North London. Workmen had become suspicious of a crate delivered to the garage of the house. The box was said to contain antiques, but inside it detectives discovered the decomposing body of a Russian businessman. The subsequent search of a luxury West End penthouse revealed another murdered Russian, the brother of the first victim. Both are believed to be from the newly formed state of Chechen. Both had been shot 3 times in the head at close range.
Ruslan and Nazarbek Utsayev were believed to control the London market in Eastern European art objects stolen from museums. A professional hitman, Gagik Oganessian, was convicted of their murder. 14 months later, Karen Reid was shot in Woking in what was thought to be a revenge killing. intended for Ter Oganessian's wife.
I looked up and I could see a bloke standing at her door, and he had a gun in his hand, and he could bang about 4 shots.
This was an absolute callous assassination. You can't describe it in any other way.
One of Scotland Yard's biggest concerns is the scale of activity in many areas of criminality in Eastern Europe that are spreading westward.
Vice, drugs, extortion, kidnap, money laundering, counterfeiting, violence.
How much is here so far?
Some. Sufficient to get our attention.
The number of operations that we are now running jointly with colleagues around Central and Eastern Europe and in the areas of policing where we are working together has exceeded our predictions.
I've met some foul, dangerous, evil, wicked, treacherous, violent people from, I think, just about every country on the globe. I wouldn't necessarily want to identify one country as being worse than the other. There just happen to be an awful lot of them in Eastern Europe at the moment.
The notorious Triads from Hong Kong are another criminal organisation with a presence in London. They too are involved in many areas of criminal activity.
Come out, please. Come out, please.
This is a raid on a brothel in London run by the Triads.
Just keep quiet and we'll tell you everything that's going to happen in a minute.
The major impact of triad activity within, certainly London, it's true elsewhere of the United Kingdom, has been upon Chinese communities. They are the victim communities who suffer from the activities of triads.
London's Chinese community is the oldest and largest in Europe. Many live in fear of the violence of the Triads.
They will violently chop people in a public place, not down a quiet black alley. They'll do it in a public place in front of people. It's a message to the community. And that's where a lot of the fear actually stems.
It's difficult for the police to investigate any crime involving a member of a triad.
Because fear of retaliation. Retaliation with the triad. You can arrest 3, 4, 5, but what about the other people? Yeah? How are you going to stop them coming? They'll want their revenge.
To watch the triads, Scotland Yard has established a Chinese intelligence unit.
It's very difficult to quote exact figures, but here in Chinatown, perhaps 70% of the restaurants will be paying some sort of protection money, maybe. There is this permanent level of fear. If you are Chinese, you perhaps have reason to feel frightened of triad involvement.
Although at present, triad activity in London is mostly confined to the Chinese community, the worry is what may happen when the sovereignty of Hong Kong reverts to the Republic of China in 1997, and there's an exodus from the colony.
There are signs that they are making arrangements to come here, but they are keeping their options open at the moment. They are creating themselves safe havens around the world just in case things don't go their way in 1997, and yes, some of them have, I think, made arrangements to come here.
But in fighting organised crime, the 400 or so London-based major criminals are Scotland Yard's biggest concern. This is the Arif gang holding up a Securicorps van in South London. They were ambushed by the flying squad and arrested. Mehmet Arif and his brother Dennis, the gang's leaders, were sentenced to 18 and 22 years in prison. 8 months later, a third Arif brother, Becca, was recorded by a police surveillance camera watching the arrival of another Securicorps van, which he was planning to rob.
It has been said that there are no true Mr. Biggs in British indigenous crime. My own fear is that there are people who have actually allowed to become bigger than they ought to have been. But they are not international organised criminals.
It's more like a webwork of old alliances and hatreds and associations. It's more about who you grew up with, who you've been in prison with, who you committed crimes with in the past, who grassed on who. You all got grassed against by one person, you're inclined to come together into a cohesive group. So it's more about that.
4 weeks later, Becca Arif and his gang returned to rob the Securicor van. Arif is in the silver car. As the Securicor van arrived, the flying squad moved.
Get exactly where you are! Get out! Get out of the car! Get out of the car! Leave it!
Becca Arif was sentenced to 6.5 years in prison for conspiracy to steal and firearms offences.
Face down!
Another investigation which made use of many of the techniques at the Yard's disposal concerned a major South London villain, Joey Pyle. Pyle had been an associate of the Crays and the Richardsons. He was known to be involved in drugs dealing and other crimes, but had escaped any convictions for over 30 years. There's a little-known Scotland Yard squad, part of the Criminal Intelligence Branch, whose job is to target major criminals, the Special Intelligence Section. They were given the job of trapping Joey Pyle. For months, surveillance teams watched Pyle's every move.
We will find out where he's living, who he's living with. Has he any girlfriends? Has he got any soft spots? We would identify his main associates, who he mixes with, who he drinks with, where he goes to, and just generally do all the background information on it.
They followed Pyle to Pinewood Studios in Buckinghamshire, where he had a film company, Touchdown Productions. The SIS then had a stroke of luck. A man arrested for fraud by the City of London police, Richard Green, said he wanted to give information on Pyle. He was heavily in debt to Pyle and terrified of him.
Richard, at the time, was being used by Pyle as his right-hand man. He was fronting for various operations that he might have running at that particular time. And the information he gave us specifically related to a heroin deal, which Pyle started running when one night at, I believe at his home address, he invited Richard along and asked Richard if he knew somebody who was interested in purchasing large amounts of heroin.
The SIS now placed hidden microphones in Pyle's office at Pinewood Studios. They also installed an undercover officer acting as a secretary called Lucy in an office close to Pyle's.
I was there to watch for the movements of the people that Joey associated with, and whenever he was in the office, then I'd inform Terry and his boys that he was there, or whoever may have been with him.
She was in a lot of danger, I'd have said. Although we were within 5 or 10 minutes away from her as a backup, but I wouldn't like to think if George found out that she was an undercover officer, what would have happened.
I actually took a liking to him. He's a nice chap, and as Lucy, he was very nice to me. He did chat to me and call me Lou, little Lou.
So the next step from there was to confirm to Pyle that we wanted the deal to be brought on, and we were going to introduce an undercover police officer to be our buyer. So we were relying on the credibility of Richard being the introductory agent of the undercover buyer, so that Pyle would trust the person that was going to come into his criminal network.
As surveillance on Pyle continued, Richard Green, having introduced him to an undercover police officer, was sent to prison for fraud.
Really, that forced the issue, because Pyle, if he wanted to carry on with the heroin deal, had to deal direct with the undercover police officer.
By now, Pyle's every move was being watched, and every conversation with the undercover officer, Steve, was recorded. They agreed to meet at the Sheraton Skyline Hotel at Heathrow, where Steve would pay £14,000 for 7,200 capsules of a drug called Omnipon. The plan was that an associate of Steve's, who was another undercover police officer, would park a red Vauxhall Astra in the car park of the Sheraton in view of Pyle and Steve and a police surveillance camera. An associate of Pyle's, Peter Gillette, then arrived and transferred the Omnipon capsules into the Astra.
Is that him now?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sierra. Oh, good boy. Now, is he going to get round the back? Is he on his jacksie?
No.
Right.
Go at lunch.
Yeah, I think I'd do the same if it was mine. Yeah, that's my boy. It's a good lad, that's it. Is that it?
Yeah.
No, there's no problems at all, because there's 2 bags in there, right?
Yeah.
So what's your man going to do now?
He's going down and got a bite of me.
Steve then gave Joe £14,000, which was the money agreed price for the Omnipon, and Joe walked out, and Joe was then arrested.
I think he was totally shell-shocked. I think he couldn't believe it had actually happened to him after all those years, that he, Joey Parr, was being arrested. And I think that he thought that he would still get away with it, even then.
After 3 trials, which included attempts at jury nobbling and witness interference, Pyle was convicted and sentenced to 9 years in prison. But there was one unresolved aspect of the investigation. During their inquiries, police had discovered a stash of 40 kilos of heroin in a warehouse in Wimbledon.
Now, we were, together with Terry's people, keeping observation on that stash, which was at the time the largest ever police seizure of heroin in the United Kingdom. And we were fairly confident that in some way that heroin was part of the deal that Pyle was trying to put together.
The heroin was never collected, and there was insufficient evidence to charge Pyle with any offence in connection with it. Commander Grieve seldom emerges from the shadows. His concern is that anything he says may give an advantage to the highly sophisticated organised criminals from all over the world that he and his colleagues spend their lives fighting.
The constant seesaw is the counterintelligence from their side. They're constantly trying to find out how we did it. So if I've been selectively enigmatic or lawfully audacious or any of the other phrases, it's because I don't wish to tell them too much, because they will play this tape over and over again. We know they've played other programmes. They watch all the time. What is it they can learn? Well, I hope they haven't learnt anything that they don't already know.
Well, there's one fact that I'm absolutely certain of, is that we, the police, cannot do this on our own. The harsh lesson of history is that no single law enforcement agency acting on its own has ever sustained a successful attack against organised crime. The only way that this is going to be approached is by a recognition of the scale of the potential threat and the impact that this may have upon our lives and the lives of our sons and daughters, and to approach it with a recognition of bringing a multidisciplinary approach, all the appropriate talents to the table, a multi-agency approach, and undoubtedly a multinational approach. Only by that grand partnership is it going to be possible to hold the line.
Bank security video of a raid over 100 banks, building societies and betting shops in North and West London. Highly professional, they always wore balaclavas to hide their faces. Time after time, the gang escaped with large amounts of cash, totalling over £500,000. To catch them, Scotland Yard's flying squad, who investigate armed robberies in London, mounted one of their biggest and most dramatic operations in recent years.
From only 2 or 3.
By the spring of 1992, police were determined to end the outbreak of robberies. Week after week, large teams of police assembled to be briefed by Detective Inspector Bob Berger of the flying squad. The operation was codenamed Crozon.
Or one of the robbers puts the bag over his shoulder and under his arm, and it's either to the back so it can slip round to the front and he can take his firearm out of there.
Unusually, the flying squad had no inside informant, and the only leads were videos and photographs from security cameras. Slowly, Berger and his team built up a picture of the robbers.
This is the first time, this is offence 21, before we even have one photograph in a Ladbrokes betting office. He's departing with a pattern jumper and a Benetton bag. We look then at Operation Crozon, offence 31. There appears the Benetton bag again. If you go back 4 offences, you will see the Benetton bag in Cricklewood Broadway being carried by one of the 2 robbers. If I take you right over to this operation, or these offences, we have 3 linked together here. On his left-hand chest is a motive, and it's the Arsenal Football Club gunner's motive. Now that appears on all three of those robberies, and that's how we link them in. I keep harking on about the bags, but the bags are the important feature because you're on busy high streets today, and the only way you're going to start to pick these people out is by suspicious behaviour or by the bags that they're carrying. Our intention today, the operation today, is to identify these men and apprehend them prior to attack on the premises that we're watching. I cannot afford, under any circumstances, to allow these men into the premises. From the photographs themselves, you'll be able to see the way that they treat the hostages inside the banking premises. May I also say to you that we know of 3 occasions where pure frustration has resulted in them letting firearms off, and they are genuine loaded firearms. Please, no heroes, because if they've done a robbery, I promise you they're hyped up and they will pull and they will shoot. So please, no heroes.
Berger's plan was to ambush the gang during a robbery. Over 100 officers from the Flying Squad, the Force Firearms Unit, SO19, the Territorial Support Group and local crime squads were hidden in OPs, or observation positions. They were watching 10 banks which Berger believed were the most likely to be raided next.
They're very calm if they are robbers.
OP1 in Harrow covered 2 banks. OP3 was watching Lloyd's Bank in Bayswater.
Yeah, Mitch, are you receiving me over?
Go ahead, over.
OP5 was opposite the Royal Bank of Scotland in Ealing Broadway.
We're all operating on Channel 7. Should a robbery come out on Channel 7, I will come up and ask for Central 50.
Detective Inspector Berger controlled the operation from a central position in the car park of Kingsbury Police Headquarters.
What's the problem with the key on that one then?
Photographs from bank surveillance cameras had shown that one of the robbers had a ponytail.
Got a male with a ponytail into our venue.
But this man with the ponytail entering the bank was not a suspect, and once more the robbers failed to appear.
Yeah, he's out on foot.
Yeah, Dick, it's Bob here. Are you all quiet your end? If you can stand your 2 units down, all right, and liaise and make sure the OPs are out and there's no great complications.
Stand down, received. North, clearly?
Yeah. Yeah, stand on received.
A week later, once again 100 officers assembled for Berger's briefing. He had 2 problems. He had to persuade senior officers to allow him to continue an increasingly expensive operation. He also had to maintain the morale and enthusiasm of his team.
It's exactly a week ago from the last robbery, and if you can have a gut feeling about something, then I would go for today. They do like Fridays, for whatever reason it is.
Again, the police watched and waited. While the police watched 10 banks in North London, the Crowson team raided the Royal Bank of Scotland in Bayswater, well to the south.
Yeah, Gus, Bob Berger, we're just hearing this one coming out. It could be a Crowson.
Black hair and a ponytail style.
Yeah, it's a Crowson. It's bloody ponytail, isn't it, Gus?
Made of an orange or red.
I'll ring you back.
Registration motor car.
We can't understand how they can actually rob a bank, run away from the premises, get into getaway cars and so forth, and yet only 1 or 2 people see them. We've got a French tourist who's giving us information that contradicts a woman who saw the actual robbery. And they're the only 2 people at the moment outside the bank who saw anything.
I think there's some £3,000 to £4,000 that's gone. And I've got a video here of the incident, which I'm taking back to the officer in charge of our inquiry.
It's one of those dual cameras again, isn't it? That's the
There they are, they're in. The bag's right. It's over the shoulder. The balaclavas are right.
The gun looks good.
The gun's the same.
I don't think you need to worry about the chunkiness so much because he'll have another coat underneath that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If
he's
you
got
look at
double
him,
bubble
if you look at
clothing.
his chest, he's got something under. It could be a scanner. I can tell you they've done that before. They're not amateurs there, are they? They know exactly what they're doing.
Watch as they go out the door, the last one to go out.
Did you take the point that they often will discard an outer...
Yes.
Yeah, we
How's the
went
jacket?
through that, and we thought when he goes out, he's got a limp.
Yeah.
Like slowly, hat off, yeah, ponytail there.
Berger and his chief inspector felt a change of tactics was needed.
We were confident.
At a meeting with a senior flying squad officer, they put forward a controversial plan.
I want to actually deploy armed officers inside the bank. That would be behind the counters. They would be able to monitor the video screens. They would be able to see if they got into the premises, what was happening in the banking hall, how many customers were being held hostage and so forth. But the most important thing is that I can't afford to have an officer watching the monitor and then these people get behind the counter and then find a police officer, because all they've got to do then is shut the door and the whole staff and the police officers and everything are then sealed within that bank and we have one massive hostage situation.
I'm comfortable at putting armed gunmen into premises. You know that. And you know my reasons, mainly because it may mean that the robbers do something they would not normally do. Once they've got the money, all they want to do is leg it and get out of there. And the other problem I don't like is that, as we've discussed before, is the possibility that one of the staff may suddenly say about police officers being here, why don't you do something?
Yeah.
And
they
of course,
have to believe that.
And then the robbers could then start shooting people, and that's the last thing we want.
The principal thing you've got to think about is the MO of this team. In 90% of the occasions that they've robbed either building societies, banks or betting shops, they've gone behind the counter. So we've got to consider that they would do this on any potential occasion.
This year, I mean, I'll go recent history. The first one of this year was 17th of the 1st. They came storming in, sledgehammered the security window out and leapt in behind the counter. Now, if they did that, if they came in off the pavement into the branch with a sledgehammer and took that window out, they then hopped through the window and they've got the whole of the banking area secured. This plan here is that if we can't control them going in, we've got cameras in the premises. We can monitor, we can talk to the outside, we can say there's one gunman by the door, there's one gunman at the counter now. We can give a full commentary to the people outside.
And no way do the armed officers behind the counter
come out from behind the counter.
You
So
see,
that's pure tactics.
Yeah, that's tactics. They stay where they are. They're there for the protection.
They're there for
protection
protection of
the
themselves,
cashiers.
the cashiers.
Yeah. Right. If we brought them out into the banking hall, it's like a shooting gallery. We couldn't have that.
Absolutely not.
We couldn't have that.
And that's a definite no-no.
No, that is a definite
Right.
no-no. Now, the flying squad officers on every occasion will be inside the bank. They're going to be asked just to do one job, and this is the commander's own instructions. If they come into the branch, you are vulnerable if they start to make their way behind the counter.
Commander George Ness, head of the flying squad, had insisted that the officers inside the banks should be unarmed.
You're going to have a main set in the premises. You're going to just say, premises 1 under attack, all right? Then behave like a member of the staff. Get away from the radio equipment. And if the staff... Let's tell me, sir, you're going to be at the briefing. I do have a registered informant. Now, I'll show you the video. Right, that's our target 1. That is him walking about, checking the plot. There's our gunman again, checking the plot. His eyes about everywhere. This is the actual robbery taking place, Friday the 13th. This is a 3-minute robbery, I think, this one. And it's £30,000, more than any of us earn in a year. except for the SO19 lad. Right, that's the only view you're going to get. Ponytail man. Very important distinguishing factor, ponytail man. He's actually handed the bag over, and there goes the second, who's target one, away with the bag, and they've committed the robbery. We have a ponytail robber on every occasion. That's what you've got to be looking out for. Now, this is the bit the SO19 boys like. There's the flying squad. We're back to Harrow again. Full credit to the Royal Bank of Scotland here. They have increased their security considerably. You can always expect to have hostages, and these two are just about to become hostages. Your second gunman is in. Right, banging on the screen. But look at that gun. There is no doubt that you're dealing with real firearms here. That is the best example you could get what you're going to be facing. Look at, he doesn't quite know what to do, so he's panicking at that stage. He wants to come forward to help, look. But can I just emphasise that if you've heard they're in the branch, please, you must not go in. These are the people, they're members of the public, that they're actually helping fill the bags up. So they're very close. Checking the door. A lot of conversation, they're quite chatty and they're very, very cocky with the customers and the staff. Here we are. This is them on the way out. I think that was a £19,000 robbery. It takes about 2 to 3 weeks for them to spend £7,000 to £8,000. They got just under £8,000 2 weeks ago. They have actually declared that they will go back to plot number 1, which is Bayswater, because they had an attempt there 3 weeks ago. As they left after the attempt, they gave those words, "We'll be back." And I believe they will be back.
Week after week, surveillance continued. Detectives were now looking for stolen Vauxhall Astras, which the Crozon team invariably used as getaway vehicles.
Central 797, 797, 752.
Berger was now controlling the operation from his car parked in a street in Marylebone.
Basically, we got one car, a blue Astra, was stolen last night at 11:30 from one of the known areas our main target lives on. Obviously, the blue Astra fits in with a pattern, and that's the vehicle we're more interested in. I mean, why they take blue ones, God knows. Maybe it's because police cars are the same colour.
Apparently they just stopped a suspect round the corner in the back car park. Seemed to be looking into cars, but he's being checked up and he's all right.
Dick, there's something at Ealing at the moment. They've got a real problem down there. The OP's burnt down, and they've got a couple of suspects. It may be that I'll ring you in a minute to scramble that gun car down from Harrow.
The pressure steadily mounted on Berger to produce results. A detective inspector for 3 years, at the age of 34, Crozon was the biggest operation he'd controlled.
Yeah, nothing at the moment.
Any Central 950 unit, any Central 950 unit in the Zulu Delta area.
I'm just puzzled. I can't work out why we go through a period of up to 28 days. I mean, it's 10 past 10 now. This is the sort of critical period for the next sort of 30 minutes as well, between 10 and 10:45. Honestly believe somewhere in all the papers of all the robberies there's a clue we're actually missing.
Jordan.
Yes,
Berger's nickname was Vicar. There was an unexpected problem when there was a bomb scare at one of the OPs.
Businesses are being closed down and being evacuated. Over.
Yeah, rendezvous ET.
Yes, Vicar says, can you all go to Echo Tango and stand by, over?
No, that's impossible at the present time due to the circumstances. Over.
Well, I'll leave it to you then, Geordie.
Yeah, in that case, go and have a McDonald's, over.
We can't even get that far. We're just behind the backs, over.
When you sit for promotion, they fire a whole lot of problems at you on a bit of paper, and they say, on day, date, time, place, you're a duty officer or you're a detective inspector when the following happens. But they don't actually add that the observation point burns down, that they try and burn the bank that you're in.
None of the radios work.
None of the radios work, and Prince Harry happens to go to school by the Royal Bank of Scotland.
A week later, the flying squad missed another Crozon robbery. It became obvious that the squad had to rethink its tactics. Scotland Yard was increasingly concerned at the cost of the operation, and a team meeting was called at the flying squad office in Finchley.
You went down there, you run us through, and then run us through on the photographs.
Right, about 10:40 it happened. Two went into the bank, one with a shotgun, one with a handgun again. And in fact, they threatened one of the customers, actually pointed the gun at him. They got all the customers to lie down on the floor again, demanded money, which they then put into a plastic carrier bag, and ran out.
Now we've got to work out what we're going to do. And I would say that we're going to have to devise a better method of regularly street searching. I think we've got to stop the banks, or we've got to...
Got to stop the banks?
Well, covering the banks, because...
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with you.
We can't pick a venue. Let's see if we can pick a car.
This would mean that the flying squad would now concentrate on finding a Vauxhall Astra that had been stolen to be used as a getaway car.
What do we do when we find a vehicle? We have to get it under observation and we have to follow it and monitor it.
And that's 24 hours a day?
Yeah, 24 hours a day. We know, don't we, from certainly the job where it was seen in Wolfston Street on the day of a robbery, that it's put near to the venue. Yeah. And whether it's garaged before that or not, we don't know.
Well, if I draw out a map and I colour in the whole area, and any vehicle that goes in that area, those are the prime areas. That's what we go with. We've got to make sure that through all the intelligence channels that we get informed about that Astra, because that will be the start of the end of Crozon.
Every morning between 3 and 7 a.m, up to 100 police officers search northwest London and parts of Hertfordshire for stolen Vauxhall Astras.
Yeah, it's the wrong index number.
Then the flying squad got the break they needed. Pictures of the Crozon team taken by security cameras had been circulated to every police station. A sergeant from West Hendon identified one of the robbers as James Doyle, who had a record for armed robbery. Surveillance on Doyle led the flying squad to other members of the team, and on the 4th of September, 2 known associates of the team were photographed stealing a Vauxhall Astra which fitted the Crozon pattern. But there was not enough evidence to arrest the robbers. They had to be caught in the act of robbing a bank.
I've been told that I'm not allowed to have a gut feeling today because every time I've had a gut feeling it's been wrong. I don't know, it's very difficult. So many things can go wrong. All we've got to do really is just focus on the good bit, and that is that we've actually seen with our own eyes target 5 and 6 attempt to steal one Vauxhall Astra. That proved too difficult for them, so they moved a few cars down and literally very, very quickly into the car, very quickly wired the ignition, and they were away. They drove up close to where we're going now and just left the car, and it remained there until late last night and eventually moved off, and hopefully we'll have that a bit later on.
A surveillance team had followed the stolen Astra to Hayes in Middlesex. Convinced another bank raid was imminent, Berger had assembled 3 flying squad cars and 2 firearms teams in a nearby car park.
The time's about 11:17. We now have target 4 turning up and driving past the vehicle that's under observation, driving the vehicle that we know, which is a red Peugeot 309. So we now bring another player into the game. It brings more and more of the Crozon team together. Christ almighty. There's a lot of timber, isn't it? Oh no, can we get in the car? Get in the car, get in the car.
At this point, a red Peugeot with 3 of the Crozon team inside drove into the car park.
Jesus. No, don't put it down, please. Eyeball permission.
Go.
Yeah, contact with target 4, straight into where we're plotted up.
That's the kind of luck we need.
It's the kind of luck we're getting all the time. It's unbelievable. Hello? Yes, Andy? Oh, God, no, not really. Straight into the car park we're in. Oh, yeah, right into the middle. But no reaction. I mean, we didn't react, they didn't react. We just sat our ground. What they've thought when they've come into that car park, I don't know. I mean, we felt absolute horror that we'd actually let ourselves get into a position that they could come to. But I actually have to put my shots close enough to be able to deploy them, but far enough away from the surveillance thing. And before we went to that car park, I went to every single unit and discussed with them where we should go to. And we all agreed that that was the best place to put the shots. Whether we've blown it, I don't know at this present moment. You just don't know what's going through their minds. I mean, there's horror going through my mind, but at the present moment, you've just got to stick with it. We've got to go out there and make
Terrorised banks and building societies in North and Central London. In last week's episode, Scotland Yard's flying squad mounted a huge operation, waiting week after week to ambush the robbers. Everything the squad tried was unsuccessful.
They're very calm if they are robbers.
And Operation Crozon had a major setback when 3 of the robbers unexpectedly drove into a car park where armed police units were waiting.
Oh no, can we get in the car? Get in the car, get in the car. What they've thought when they've come into that car park, I don't know. I mean, we felt absolute horror.
One of the flying squad's biggest operations was facing complete failure. To the relief of the flying squad, the robbers appeared not to have noticed the police or our camera team in the car park.
048912.
Surveillance on members of the gang and a red Vauxhall Astra they'd stolen as a getaway car convinced police that another robbery was imminent. All the indications were that the target would be Lloyd's Bank in North Harrow. Detective Inspector Berger had assembled a team of 50 officers, 18 of them armed. Some of the police were concealed in OPs, observation positions, overlooking the bank. Others were in flying squad cars known as gunships. The specialised firearms unit were in grey Range Rovers.
Target 4 has turned up at his home, and he's changed, and he's gone round to Target 1's address where he is now. Yeah, it's going to come. It's got to be today.
Yeah, brilliant. Cheers. Right, they're all in the car, and he's got a happy bag, it looks like, with him.
What do they call the happy bag?
The happy bag is happiness for us, i.e. it's a bag, and we hope it contains the right things.
The right things being weapons, evidence of intent to rob.
Yeah.
Bank's open. Yeah, the bank's open. Yes? Yeah, the bank is open. Yeah? 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 All right, lovely. Cheers. Gents, we have 1, 4 and 7 in Ford's car with a happy bag. Coming this way. Do you want to get your stuff on? OP5, OP4. So OP5, OP6. Yeah, keep all transmissions down to a minimum because they'll be coming in contact with our transmission server.
I'm starting to move towards our Golf Sierras. Right, so it looks as if 2 and 3 are out of the game, doesn't it? Okay.
I just hope they're not spooked. The last thing we need for any reason is an ambulance coming through, fire brigade with the 2 tones. and just agitate them.
Right into the lower road.
They've obviously been and just checked the car then, haven't they? But they're still in their friendly car.
You get the 4-9 unit to give you the exact location.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do. None of the voters are working. What about yours? Is it working?
Vehicle 8 is right outside our premises at the junction now.
Received. Yeah, got it. Stay down. It's the Peugeot. Gents, get down. It's the Peugeot. Now the vote.
The red Peugeot was owned by one of the robbers.
Got it. Keep it down, lads. We're coming round now. Watch the presence. No
Into the P road.
There you go. Yeah, contact to OP6 and passed us and lost OP6. Right, they're coming back. Make sure everybody stays down. There they go. There they go.
OP6, just be where they are looking up in your direction.
Yes, received. That's, do you hear that, gents? They're looking up at buildings. We're going to have at least 20 minutes of this.
5-0 from 5-2. Can we just have grids? Because I want to move the ships out in a minute.
5-2, there is no control of the vehicle at this time. We have control, we will update you.
Yes, received.
Relay from OP7 from OP6. The targets have driven past the Astra, over.
When we go, you've got to keep up with me. You can't go any other way but the way I go. All right.
Contact OP6. We have India 1 walking on the pavement next to the Lloyds Bank. OP6, over. Yes, he's walking along the Pinner Road to the junction of Station Road, having a good look around.
When we go in, Mitch, I'm going to wave them through at a point on a hit situation. Let them go round us, and we'll plug the gap, the natural gap that they create, okay? But I don't want to get past the back of their cars.
Stay down, Joe. Stay right down. You can see. Yes, looking back at the junction, looking back down at Pinner Road and Station Road, now outside the Lloyds Bank. Stay down, he's looking. Yeah, he's looking up at all the buildings. Still standing outside Lloyds Bank, looking back down Pinner Road. Still looking around.
Hello? Yeah, I'll hand you over one moment.
Hello, mate. Very, very well. He's having a good look around. He's done a... Right, he's looking around. He's back on the plot again. Do you want to keep this line open a bit longer? Bob, you've lost me. Damn it. All units stand by from OP6. We've got the Peugeot at the lights of Pinner Road, Station Road 2 up over. We knew this would happen. There's another 10-15 minutes of this. No? Engaged. Ring Bob and just update him that it's not worth him bringing his cars in just yet, because we've got no control. I'm sure he knows that now. But no control, and they're still in the Peugeot. And they're still looking around the plot. They're still not happy with it. But they're so good, especially for youngsters.
How do you feel about them at the moment?
Very apprehensive. I'm so concerned that this observation post or any of the others there don't show that they're actually observing them. But they've got to be totally happy before they actually get on the pavement. And if there's any doubt in their mind, they won't get out. But they've gone somewhere. They've gone somewhere. Whether they've gone to pick up something or they're just sitting up. But we haven't got control of them, so it's the most dangerous for us because there's more chance of us being seen. But I think another 15 minutes, 20 minutes at the most, and I think they'll be in if they're going to do it. Yeah, contacts coming round, now in Pinner Road, past our position.
India 1, front passenger, India 7 in the rear. India 1 in the front, India 7 in the rear.
All right, now they're going to go to the car.
A surveillance team watched two of the robbers transfer from the Peugeot to the getaway car, the red Vauxhall Astra.
4 still in the Peugeot, parked away. And there's 2 1 and 7 are in the Astra. And they're putting stuff into their waist belts. They're both wearing gloves. Right, have a look around, gents. Make sure, I will look to the left, I'll look to the right.
You've got control, 485.
But stay down, gents, for Christ's sake, stay down. Nothing at all. No, he's all right. Don't have to move, gents. India 1 is not under control. Right, get down, get down.
Contact, India 1 walking Pinner Road towards the premises. Looks like India 1 might have something down his trouser leg. Right hand trouser leg.
Yes, that can confirm he's fiddling something on the right side of his trouser leg. He is actually walking past the premises along Pinner Road towards Harrow.
The Astra right behind the bank. Astra right behind the bank.
Get down.
The Astra is in Pinner Road, outside the library. India 1 is just behind the vehicle.
Get down, get down.
Okay, the Astra is right next to him. Can you see that?
The red Astra
Yes,
was
we
now
have
parked
contact
close to
with
the bank.
6 full contact. We have India 1 standing at the telephone box, 4 and 7 walking towards the bank.
Hands in their pockets.
Confirmed, hands in their pockets. They're walking round towards the bank. 1 is still in the telephone kiosk by the Astra.
Outside, by the till point. 25 is eyeball. They're by the till point. They're moving away back round to Pinner Road.
Contact with OP6, walking back towards the Astra. They're in Pinner Road. The vehicle is parked next to the bank on the opposite side of the road to OP6.
OP6, is it the Astra, over?
Suspects to India's 4 and 7 into the vehicle. India 1 is casually talking on the telephone. India 4 and 7 talking in the vehicle. Still no change.
Go on, move up, move up.
Looking back at India 1, India 1 is in telephone box. Gloves are on both suspects, hands in pockets. Out of sight to OP6. Gents, I want you downstairs. Stay down there.
Both in hoods on, OP has eyeballs, they're into premises. Stand by, stand by. The glove is on.
India 1 is still on the pavement of the telephone kiosk.
Stand by.
At this point, an elderly customer entered the bank. The man on the left was holding a child.
Attack, 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 go! Attack, 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 go!
Let me move.
Don't move, don't move.
The one
Stay where you are. Weapon there, weapon.
Steady, 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 steady. No, steady. Yes, one more down there, he's caught. Steady.
Don't move.
And the other one. Right.
We need one more. No, just redo him on the other 2 cuffs. Forget the old ones, do him on the new set. Yeah. That's it. Okay, sorry. Not done? Check. All right, boys. Check. Okay. All right. Right.
Nobody's told you. You know that you're under arrest, don't you? Yeah. Well, and you know that you don't have to say anything unless you want to. Do you understand that? Yes. Good.
You got nothing else on you at all? No.
Right. No, he's
a bit loose.
Just leave him there. Hold on, mate.
I've got it. You don't worry about it. What were you in? Jim, cover that junction till they come back. Uniform. Yes, it's under the rear. Right, someone picked it up. Who's Steve Kit? Just get Mr. Campbell. Can you finish it up?
Firearms down there.
You haven't had any photographs yet?
It hasn't actually changed.
You're lying already. You're lying already. No? No?
This is the proof that we do this with your property. There's nothing detrimental.
Yeah, nothing down to you. What's your name? Your proper name. Don't lie with the name Jones. What's your proper name?
You'll find out for yourself, it's Kevin, Michael Patrick Jones.
Rec 5 will be off the ground. I'll tell you where when I can.
Yeah.
There's no pain here. Take as long as we want. Okay, right, check his arms.
Sorry, he's got a pair of gloves on, so.
Yeah, alright. Right, he's okay. Right, he's okay. Hold
No, photograph me.
Hold it. Put the camera. Okay, right, so not bad day, Bob.
Brilliant, eh? That's what it's all about. Months and months of work. And our luck changed. That's what I've been saying the whole way along. We've got to make our luck change, and it did. And we've got 3. And they're beautifully controlled. Nobody's injured, nobody's been shot. Police or villains. And it's now back to the hard work, because this is where the work really starts, because we've got to try and convince the jury now they did what we're going to tell them they did in court.
Over here, we have all the list of the property. We've retained some of it for the time being, some of it for a bit longer. All your items of clothing, which are exhibits, and obviously the firearm and the other items that we retained. And then lastly, the bag with the £4,110 cash. If you agree to all the contents on there, sign directly underneath. Here's the sign.
any reason for that?
No, I swept my boots from there.
Detailed reconstruction of the day's events now began.
Right, there's nobody in at number 19, but they've effected entry, and there's no one in at 49 Waverley, but they're going...
2 female cashiers were terrified when the robbers entered the bank and demanded money. As they left with over £4,000, one of the men said, "Thanks, girls. Have a nice day."
Up until the point where they went into the banking premises, they were in full control of whatever was going to happen on that plot. The minute they were in that bank, the game was then mine, and I could then decide. One of the confusing points was that we didn't expect a woman to run out of the bank, because the radio message was a bit confusing at that point, out. Well, that was the signal I wanted from the observation point, out. And then I was going to give the attack.
Attack! Attack! Go! Go!
Now, I wasn't sure if it was the old lady running out or them running out, but we gave the attack and we had it away from the bank premises, and we just couldn't control that last bit because target 1 was still by the phone. When I got there and saw that the car was open, an engine running, I could understand then that he was literally just going to leap off the phone into the car and be the getaway driver. We trapped them in. There was one that target 4 who did a little run, but we had that covered and we caught him, so he didn't get away.
No, just redo him on the other 2 cuffs.
Target 1 was our main objective. It's a convicted armed robber, and obviously it's harder when they're convicted. They know what they're doing, And he's there. He's on the pavement.
Target 1 was James Doyle. Jason Nicholas was target 4. Kevin Jones was target 7. The flying squad had been given information that led them to a safety deposit box registered in the name of Doyle and another member of the team, Malcolm O'Halloran, target 2.
It's heavy. It's very heavy. It's unloaded.
Is it best to put them all back in that bag?
Unloaded.
There's a sawn off in here as well?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a single barrel one.
I think this is a box of shotgun ammunition.
That's an old one, isn't it?
Oh, it's a big one. 45, I think.
3 sawn-off shotguns, 2 revolvers, and 500 rounds of ammunition were discovered. The manager of the safety deposit box company and his solicitor, who were also present, had no idea what was in the deposit box.
But he gave us his right.
7 weeks later, the flying squad had located the other members of the Crozon team. The Force Firearms Unit were called in to arrest O'Halloran, who was believed to be armed and dangerous.
Back up on the front. Let us know when you're in. Yes, all units, stand by. Andy, move up. We're about to go in.
Yeah, received.
Okay, Carlos, when you're ready, go, go, go. Go, go, go. Yeah, stand by, Bob. There's a dog right behind the door.
Yeah.
Ray, have you got any metal cuts? Yeah.
Right, Malcolm, I'm DS McCready, it's a DS7 from the flying squad. Basically, I'm arresting you for committing or conspiring to commit 97 offences of robbery or attempted robbery while in possession of firearms. In relation to that, you don't have to say anything unless you wish to. What you do say will be taken down in writing and may be given evidence. Do you understand that? We've got a search warrant in relation to the premises. What we're going to do is do a systematic search of the premises, looking for evidence that may relate to those robberies. And on completion of that, you're going to be taken to Westminster Police Station and questioned in relation to those matters. Do you understand?
Yeah.
Okay.
Have a look at the cuts first.
Oh, yeah, well...
£1,250 was found under the bath in O'Halloran's house.
You want to sit this side? Yeah. Right, just move it in there. Right, Sarge. I'm DS McCready from the Flying Squad Office at Finchley. This is Mr. Malcolm O'Halloran, and he's been arrested for having committed, or conspired to commit, 97 offences of robbery or attempted robbery whilst in possession of firearms.
10, 20, 30.
On the 6th of June 1994, at Snaresbrook Crown Court, Kevin Jones pleaded guilty to 10 armed robberies and was sentenced to 20 years in prison. Jason Nicholas pleaded guilty to 9 armed robberies and was also sentenced to 20 years in prison. Malcolm O'Halloran pleaded not guilty, but was convicted on 26 charges of conspiracy to rob and sentenced to 24 years in prison. On the 21st of October 1994, Noel and Adrian Dennehy were sentenced to 5 years imprisonment for their involvement in the taking of Vauxhall Astras to be used in the robberies. All 5 have appealed against sentence. On the same day as the Dennehys were sentenced, James Doyle, the leader of the Crozon gang, was brought back to England by the flying squad. In February 1993, while on remand, he had escaped to Southern Ireland and was recaptured after 6 months on the run. Another 14 months and 10 court appearances later, he was extradited to stand trial. On September the 11th, 1995, at the Old Bailey, James Doyle was sentenced to 24 years in prison for firearms offences, escaping from custody, robbing Lloyd's Bank in North Harrow, and an indictment for 25 further charges of conspiracy to rob. In all, the flying squad believed the Crozon team were responsible for 104 armed robberies. At the end of the original trial, Judge Owen Stable said to the court, Detective Inspector Berger and all the officers of he's become the country's best-known policeman. With the police under greater scrutiny than ever before, his job is to guide the Metropolitan Police into the 21st century.
That was crack and firearms-related crime in Brixton.
At a time when the crime rate is at the top of the political agenda and many feel the streets of London are no longer safe, the job of Commissioner of Police of the Metropolis is one of the most sensitive in the country.
As far as I'm aware, that's the first time that sort of automatic weapon has been used against us in London.
Sir Paul Condon runs an organisation of 45,000 police and civil staff with an annual budget of £1.9 billion, equal in size to almost any company in the United Kingdom.
Just a couple of things.
When Sir Robert Peel, the Home Secretary, founded the Metropolitan Police in 1829, there were just 3,000 police officers.
In some ways, it is perhaps easier to be Commissioner now than in the past. Certainly London at the turn of the century and late Victorian times was a very violent city. Huge no-go areas, people afraid of footpads and highwaymen and all sorts of things. So, I mean, it's all relative.
It's 25 years since Sir Paul was a PC on the beat in the East End of London. To avoid losing touch with his officers, he regularly visits police stations. Today, it's Brixton.
By definition, you are remote from the trials and tribulations, the successes and failures of actually being at a police station. I'm not policing with them day to day. I'm not on the streets with them when they're rolling around with prisoners. I'm not with them when they're facing violence. And so it would be naive to pretend that there is a closeness. I need to understand, I need to share their anxieties, to know what's going on.
Brixton is one of the most difficult divisions in London to police. The riots of the early 1980s left a deep scar. At times, the police station itself was threatened, and relationships between the police and the community reached an all-time low. A lot has changed since those days. Community leaders and police have worked hard to repair the damage, and the atmosphere is more relaxed.
It seemed to have happened over the long weekend.
There's no sign of forced entry anywhere.
No, not at all.
However, many of the problems of the inner city in Brixton in the 1990s remain.
Road, Male going berserk.
Can I help you? The drugs, what do you need? Yes, would you hold, please?
Today, the superintendent in charge is Peter Clark.
Good afternoon, Commissioner.
The men and women who work here daily face immense physical challenges and threats to their safety. Tragically, nearby here, PC Patrick Dunn was killed less than 2 years ago. 2 of our own officers here were shot and very seriously wounded last year. Far too often I'm finding that unarmed officers are coming up against determined armed criminals.
From ITN headquarters, the early evening news with John Suchet.
One of the 2 police constables shot last night in South London has described how he lay on the ground waiting for the gunman to finish him off.
First thing was I knew Simon was quite bad for the way he screamed, so I tried to get to him, but the pain was too bad.
Sir Paul's first meeting was with colleagues of the 2 wounded officers.
Hello there. This is David Thomas at the Sergeant.
There are only 2 sorts of risks you're likely to face out on the street. The ones that you can see are a danger, and the ones we just don't know.
I think you're entitled to find that if people in this area are carrying guns and knives unlawfully, if caught and convicted, they should be facing very tough sentences.
Unfortunately, it's come to the situation now where so many firearms are available and they are being used, and they are starting to be used against police officers, as we know from last year at this station, and we need to have protection. And at the end of the day, that comes down to having a firearm. A baton doesn't help when you're up against a gun.
The main news so far today: tributes are paid to the policeman killed in a London street. PC Dunn and a civilian were shot dead by 3 gunmen who are said to have laughed as they ran from the scene. The murders have brought fresh calls for Britain's police to be armed.
In October 1993, the Commissioner attended the funeral of PC Patrick Dunn. Since 1990, 7 police officers have been killed and over 50,000 injured on duty.
3 times as Commissioner I've had those phone calls that you never want to get, which tell you that a colleague has been fatally wounded. And part of me goes with them, because as Commissioner I feel responsible. I carry the burden on behalf of the whole of the Met for their safety. So it affects us all.
Lima 3. Lima 3, thank you.
I think to be a police officer now, anywhere in this country, you are at more risk of violence than any time in the past.
Don't bait. Right. Calm down. Hi,
mate. Certainly criminals are prepared to act violently towards the police in a way which I find very disturbing.
Just keep your head where it is, dear. She was obviously under the influence of alcohol, and that's the problem when you're dealing with people that have been drinking. You just never ever know what they're going to do. One minute they can be talking to you really quite happily, quite calm, and the next minute you're like we were down there, rolling around on the floor with her. And that is a real danger in dealing with people like that have been drinking.
The shooting of 2 unarmed police officers in Brixton in March 1994 brought about an urgent rethink of protective gear.
Really, we've had 3 things in the last year. We've had the bulletproof vests, the baton. This is actually one of the shorter ones. I think that's a 22-inch baton. And the other bit, the new style handcuffs, quick cuffs or speed cuffs. Just by bashing against someone's wrist, it spins around very quickly, and within seconds you've got the control you need over someone by bending their wrist around, whatever. They then do what you want them to do. When something does happen, it happens on quite a big scale, whether it's domestic problems or really anything can get magnified. What can be minor incidents out in the street, especially around the town centre, you get other people who don't know anything about it, just coming out to see what's going on, and then sometimes joining in, trying to cause trouble and just generally escalating the incident. We've been called by the market inspector because somebody's street trading and won't go away.
Whether the officer on the beat should be armed as a matter of routine is one of the most pressing questions facing police in Britain today.
The level of violence which you actually come across on the street involving firearms, I think is quite unprecedented.
Would you argue for permanent issue of firearms to all officers? I mean, what about the guy or the girl who perhaps is one of the most unsuitable people at the nick to carry a gun? How would you feel about them wearing a gun? And
I think what we need to say to people is, first of all, do you want to be an officer who wants to be armed? And if they do, then they need to go through the necessary selection procedures.
Although around at Brixton now we have an ARB, which is positioned just on our ground, still if you have to wait 5-10 minutes for that to arrive, that's far too long. And we should have the option of carrying guns.
In every jurisdiction in the world, you will have what they call blue-on-blue accidents. Officers shooting each other and themselves by accident. We know that police officers have their guns taken off them and they get shot with their own guns. We know that if police officers have got access to guns freely, then sadly the number of suicides involving guns goes up. We don't know what it would do to criminals. If they knew that every police officer was carrying a gun, that might influence how they react and what they take with them to commit crime.
Is it the Volvo we've got?
Yeah, I've already booked it out.
The number of armed response vehicles, known as ARVs, has recently been increased to cope with the rise in armed crime. Up to 14 vehicles, with crews trained in a range of weapons, now patrol the streets of London. there's a feeling here too that eventually all officers will be armed.
Yeah, I think it's inevitable that the way it's going at the moment, the escalation of the number of police officers just being shot, and the number of firearms being used, I can see, sadly, that all police officers eventually will be armed.
Once we stop being an unarmed service, we will lose something, a bit of the character of the police force. I mean, we all like the traditions of being a bobby, really. Once we become an armed service, that will go.
An abandoned call made from a male stated there was a male in a petrol station armed with a gun.
My own view is that I have no doubt we will be arming more and more police officers as time goes by, but in a controlled way, in a way that they are specially selected, specially trained, are monitored, can handle the situation. So yes, more police officers carrying guns, but I don't believe we're at a point yet where I should be arguing that every police officer should carry a gun every time they're on duty.
From the uniform branch, the Commissioner moved to the CID.
These guys are people involved in our proactivity, but just a sample of them, obviously, with various team leaders and one or two of the main players involved.
Well, I'm the Detective Sergeant on the crime squad. We're 100% robbery, proactive, out on the streets, arresting robbers, touring victims round to attempt to identify the suspects and looking after the victims afterwards.
Street robberies went up by several thousand last year, and although, relatively speaking, they are a small number, we're not prepared to tolerate an increase, and so we have set robbery as one of our priorities.
Detective Sergeant Roger North heads a team of plainclothes officers in unmarked cars who discreetly watch vulnerable pedestrians. Operation Eagle Eye.
People being held up in the street, snatches of handbags, people being attacked with knives and cash stolen. There she goes, on the other side.
Hello, me. Yeah, she's outside McDonald's now. Here she comes, this lady here. Got 3 handbags. One of them's better than a checkbook, isn't it?
This alleyway here she's coming up to on the left. We've had a few people duck out of there, snatch the bags and run back down the alleyway.
When a robbery has occurred, if it's happened recently, we take the details, and if they can still identify the suspect, we tour them around the area to attempt to identify the suspect if he's still around.
Did he have a blue shirt, did he?
Yes.
You see that blue shirt?
And try and keep your eyes peeled, because we're not allowed to direct you in any way. You
Yes.
have to make your own observation. Did he have a knife at all? He did. That's it. Flick knife. You saw it, yeah? Pulled it, yeah. How do you know it was a flick knife?
Well, it flicks out.
All right. Okay.
When he demanded the money, what was the words he used?
Basically, I told him, how do I know you're not just coming in? He goes, well, I'm not coming to your house, doesn't matter. Then he pulled his knife, says, give me all your money and whatever you got. And he starts searching my coat.
22% of the population of Brixton is black. In 1994, of people stopped and searched in that area, 57% were black. Although the relationship between the black community and the police is improving, it is at times still tense.
The pattern of stopping and searching tends to reflect what crime reports and intelligence is revealing to us in different parts of London. So in some parts of London, a high number of young black men feature in our stopping and searching. Now that's a challenge not just to me as police commissioner, not just to the people running the relevant police stations, but to the whole community. How are we going to encourage those young people away from a criminal lifestyle?
No justice! No peace!
A political row erupted in July of this year when Sir Paul wrote to a cross-section of community leaders in London asking them to a meeting to discuss the connection between street robberies and young, unemployed black people. Opinion was divided along fairly predictable lines, and the Home Secretary supported the Commissioner. Although there were protests outside Scotland Yard on the day of the meeting, those who attended said it was useful.
Short term, I'm tasked with actually doing something about those street robberies, and that brings with it a whole range of tensions and challenges. Over 60% of young black men in London are unemployed. Many of them feel discriminated against, threatened, challenged If you are looking for some focus for your hurt, for your anxiety, for your concern as a young black person, and you look to the establishment, authority in general, well, the very visible manifestation of that is the police service. So we shouldn't be surprised if there is a tension between, particularly, young black men and police officers. Of course things go wrong. There are millions of contacts between the police and the public every year. Some of those interactions will go wrong. Very, very rarely will the police act badly. But when they do, those instances of bad behaviour must be exposed and dealt with. And we do our best to deal with them.
Could I just get your son's name, please?
Mike Potter has been a police constable for 3 years. He understands better than most white officers the culture of young black men.
Individually, these kids or these youngsters, they're not a problem at all. It's just that when you get them within their groups, they can be a little more of a handful than they should be. And unfortunately, often you get a peer pressure, and they often get into things which are worse than they actually imagine until it's too late.
Right! Stand down! Aye! To bridge the gap between police and ethnic minorities, the Met has for many years tried to recruit officers from those communities. But with only 730 officers from ethnic minorities out of a total of 28,000, so far the results have been disappointing.
I am told by people whose judgment I trust and respect from within the ethnic community, if you're from an Asian background and you come into policing, you will disappoint your families and friends. It is seen as a low-status profession. Your family would rather you were a doctor, solicitor, accountant, teacher, almost anything rather than a policeman. If you're from an Afro-Caribbean background, your friends may accuse you of having sold out. So it's a tough challenge for someone from an ethnic background to come into policing. But we're not prepared to do daft, artificial things just to inflate the numbers for the sake of it. They've got to be people who are suitable to come into policing, who are prepared for the rigours of policing, and will stay with us.
Unfortunately, you still do have this sort of like this sad mentality. It's almost like living in a barrel of crabs, where as soon as you're trying to claw your way out and get yourself a half-reasonable job, I see nothing wrong with the police force, that someone decides that they want to pull you back in. They say, this job isn't for you. You're supporting, what are you supporting, in fact? You're supporting the white man. I think a lot of it goes back possibly down to the days of slavery, sadly, and which is quite understandable. There is nothing worse and nothing more humiliating for a black man to be put back into shackles. And it's certainly one of those things, when I'm considering putting handcuffs on someone, I do bear in mind.
In areas like Brixton, there are particular pressures on a black officer.
If you go up and stop someone, then sometimes I have actually had it where black people have turned around to me and said, you're only stopping me because I'm black. Some people, because they see young blacks, they'll see the uniform, a black man in the uniform, and they'll instantly think traitor, which is a little bit of a shame. A lot of black officers have actually left areas which are very black, for example, Brixton, Peckham, to Tottenham, mainly because they get such a hard time out there. But at the end of the day, I think after about 2 or 3 months, your skin begins to wear quite thick, and it tends to be water off a duck's back.
Not all the problems have come from outside the police.
Police officers are not robots, they're not automatons. They're drawn from society. They're drawn from a society that has likes and dislikes, that has prejudices. Now, we screen out people with the worst attitude. We attempt to only take suitable people into policing. Occasionally, a small number let us down, and we try to deal with them. So we will never totally eradicate corruption. We will never totally eradicate racism. But I would proudly put our record against any other public service in the country.
Charge the dirty scum them for murder!
Perhaps the most sensitive situation Sir Paul has had to handle as Commissioner was the death of Joy Gardner when she was arrested by the Alien Deportation Squad. At a press conference called on the day that Joy Gardner died, Sir Paul announced the suspension of the 3 arresting officers and appealed for calm.
I can understand the anger, I can understand the distress in Hornsey, on the streets, in the estates, as people try to come to terms with what has happened.
By acting quickly, Sir Paul diffused a potentially explosive incident, although many police officers felt their colleagues had been unfairly treated. They were later cleared of charges of manslaughter.
I would love a cup of tea, Peter. I've got virtually no voice left.
Right, well, there's one on its way.
The Commissioner's next meeting was with officers responsible for liaison with the public.
It's a two-way process. We're involved in a running programme. We're building on the success of the frontline police officers right there on the street.
There's long been a debate among senior police officers about how much time should be devoted to targeting crime and how much to building relationships with the community.
By and large, I think the mix we've got feels about right. Police officers don't want to just have a siege mentality where the only time they have contact with the public is in times of danger or stress or crime. Part of the relationship is building up crime prevention advice, helping set up Neighbourhood Watch, encouraging citizenship with young people. There's a whole range of activity which superficially may not look as if it's pure police work, but it certainly, I think, contributes to confidence in policing and the partnership between police and the public.
Right, so this is going to be the music room.
Right.
And we've got one of the youth actually doing the graffiti on it.
Right.
And we gave him a brief which said, no violent images, nothing negative, it's all got to be positive stuff. And this is the setting up of this room was a result of the survey we did, because on the estate, we went around, we spoke to everybody on the estate, the Tenants Association, and we asked them what they wanted us to provide, and then we asked them about you. And overwhelmingly, they want to see more uniform patrols around. Overwhelmingly, they don't want to see plainclothes. They want to see a symbol of somebody enforced. They want to see the symbol of the law.
The image of the police can't always be that of the friendly Bobby. In tough inner-city areas like Brixton, the crime level is high, and it's the police who have to deal with it.
Number 3 and number 4 on scene.
We live in fairly rancorous times. Maybe it's sort of an end-of-century feel where I think there is a sort of, we live in a society where someone has to be to blame for everything. Natural disasters, lack of cohesion. There is desire to have someone to blame, and if crime is going up, as it has been on some occasions, then the obvious target to blame are the police service. I can draw a distinction between a sort of media commentary and a media perception, and what the actual public feel about policing. When Londoners are asked, who do you trust? Then they trust their police officers. I think only doctors had a higher rating than the police service in London.
Well, I came this side. I think he's gone upstairs.
Gang of robbers has robbed the money off one of the other gang of robbers, and they're talking about it. And talking out.
Thank you for coming. The headquarters of the Metropolitan Police is an anonymous office block in Victoria, New Scotland Yard.
I can go anywhere in the world and do so, and say Scotland Yard, it means something. It means British policing, it means a standard of excellence,